looking for a scare.
Hey everyone, Pushing Up Roses here, and welcome to another Goosebumps thingy. I've missed discussing children's horror, so I decided to go online, look up the worst Goosebumps episodes, and according to the internet, Strained Peas is in the #1 slot. I've already covered this episode. You may remember the demon baby who tried terrorizing their older brother, so I chose a different episode on the list, Go Eat Worms from Season 2. I wasn't exactly into Goosebumps books when I was younger. I was more into the murder mystery genre. The Clue chapter books were more my speed, but that being said, it was still difficult to escape the reign of terror that was the Goosebumps series. My friends read them all, sometimes my teachers read them out loud during silent reading time, and the book covers, illustrated by Tim Jacobus, were so striking and they were hard to not notice. Surprisingly, I became more of a Goosebumps fan in my adulthood and developed a respect for R.L. Stine's writing and ability to create horror for a younger crowd. However, not every book translated into a quality episode, and Go Eat Worms is one of them. It's just gross.
Worms are the best thing to use if you want to gross someone out.
And yes, I realize that the title suggests that it's probably going to be a little gross, but I wasn't expecting all gross and nothing else. Let's take a look at it and see why it's considered one of the worst Goosebumps episodes in the entire television series. Before I get into this, I just want to point out the tagline on Netflix. Tom Bastro is obsessed with worms. That is, until the worms start playing tricks on their own. What kind of tagline is this? Oh no, the worms and their pranks, those silly scamps. As we begin, we're greeted with a magazine called Worm World, decorated with a choice graphic. Is this what people think worms look like? Also, who's this? Miss Carol Price catches the largest worm and holds onto it. It's a record. Okay, Miss Carol, you get it, girl. This transitions into a scene with worms. A ton of worms. Thousands of worms. Millions of worms. So I see the episode is starting out great. It has me hooked. The next scene shows a boy named Todd dissecting a worm in his basement. There was a close-up of that, but I decided to not use it because I didn't want to squick anyone out. The episode is already gross enough without it. He and his best friend Danny are going to enter the science fair, with Todd's project being to prove you can do just about anything to a worm and it will survive.
Cold, stretching, even cutting them in half.
Okay, true, but did you have to say that like a psychopath? Todd's sister Reggie comes downstairs to check on her own science project, the life cycle of a robin, only to find that Todd filled her papier-mâché bird with worms. Bleh.
I hate you!
I hate him too! What an absolutely terrible thing to do! She runs away crying because her project is now ruined, and Todd could not give a single fuck.
You'll be sorry!
Ooh, I'm so scared.
Quality brother. Everyone leaves and oh, worm cam. The worms spy a little on Todd and his friend, then retreat back into the dirt. They'll never find us here. Todd is still gushing about his little worm prank the next day at school lunch.
What do you got?
Last night's spaghetti.
Mom spaghetti.
Todd and Danny decide to trade lunch bags. As Todd starts to blather about all the ways he intends to torture his worms, Danny shovels a forkful of noodles into his mouth, unknowing that it is full of worms. God, that is so disgusting. What is R.L. Stine's fascination with people eating worms? There's actually a scene similar to this in The Haunted Mask, with a worm being hidden in a sandwich and then being eaten. It's definitely a successful gross out moment, but ugh, I hated watching this. Danny is upset, thinking that this is another one of Todd's pranks.
You and your stupid jokes!
You mean you don't trust the kid who hid a gallon of worms at his sister's science project? Throw thermopod! Later that night, Todd's mom looks for him in his room.
It's gotten worse.
What's that? It's gotten worms? Well, this is an absolute nightmare. This kid is obsessed with worms to the point that he's starting to resemble some kind of serial killer. His mom saying in utter terror, "It's gotten worse," says it all. Like they've been working on this issue for some time. Everything in his room is worm related. He even has a worm calendar. Oh wait, that's a moon. Sorry, false alarm.
Oh, sorry, Mom. I thought you were Reggie.
Oh yeah, from behind she looks exactly like your short blonde-haired sister, sure. Todd's mom says that his prank on his sister wasn't funny and then he needs to fix up her papier-mâché robin for the science fair. Todd responds like a total snot, saying she's already found him guilty and that as a lawyer, she would not treat her clients like that.
If you were my client, I'd tell you to plead insanity.
See, that's what I'm saying. She tells Todd to fix the bird or he won't be allowed to enter the science fair. Only my worms understand me. Later that night, the worms start to infiltrate. Dun, 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 dun. Oh no, 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 no. No! No! Oh my god, I hate this. You know what? This is a good time for an ad break. We'll be right back after these messages. Todd screams and tells his mom that his sister put worms in his bed, but she's not even home. His mom has grown impatient and tells him to clean up the worms and go back to sleep. Ooh, an artsy worm cam. Todd is now desperate to hang out with someone.
Do you want to sleep over tonight?
We can play Worms on Xbox. Danny is hesitant, but Todd convinces him it was Reggie who pulled the spaghetti prank
Mom spaghetti.
and that she put worms in his bed.
Really? Gross.
He's saying it's gross, but his face is saying it's hilarious. Todd runs into Reggie and demands she confess, and she responds by saying she wouldn't even touch them, let alone handle them, which is true. She hates worms.
Why would I put one in your spaghetti?
Mom spaghetti.
Where are they even going? Why are they out here? This route home is wild.
Ugh, my brother and his worms.
Gosh, I just love relatable characters. Meanwhile, over in Todd's basement, the worms are prepping for their attack by doing ab crunches. 4, 5, 6. Todd goes out to the lake later that night to dig up fresh worms, and my, the steam machine is working overtime. Suddenly, he gets stuck in some mud as it had started raining. He begins to sink a little, then suddenly falls through the ground. Is it a wormhole? He rights himself and tries to find a way out. Yes, head towards the dead end on the set. That'll work.
Hello?
Welcome to the Rainforest Cafe. He's being watched by the worms who are dancing in the corner. Oots, ats, oots, ats, oots, ats. He wanders around for what seems like forever until he eventually finds this message on the wall.
Todd, we will make you squirm.
Don't threaten me with a good time, huh? He looks down and the floor is worms. It's like the game, the floor is lava, but in this case it's worms and there's no winning or escaping. It's fun. Oh god, what is this giant penis doing here? Todd starts wrestling the giant worm, I guess. Dude, just let it go. Stop holding on to it. He stabs the worm monster with a stick, but it rises from the ashes like a slimy phoenix. He manages to escape and almost gets pulled back into the hole, but his sister shows up with the papier-mâché Robin, and it scares the thing away.
I could kiss you.
Aw, gross. So after this traumatizing worm incident, Todd reforms. He disposes of all the worms, all the decor in his room, and begins repairing the weirdest fuck looking Robin for his sister. He and Danny go fishing the next day, and he won't even use the worms for bait. So he just chucks them into the lake? And my dude, worms can't swim. You went through all that trouble to get rid of the worms and stop your weird science fair experiments, but you're cool with dumping them in the lake. Throw them in the dirt or in a garden or something. Anyway, he insists on using minnows. Having learned nothing at all, he decides his science fair project will instead be on fish, but they'll have to conduct a few experiments.
How long can fish live in hot water or cold water? How long can a freshwater fish survive in salt water?
Thanks, I hate it. Todd picks up a rogue sandwich that Danny says he has no idea where it came from, and no one seems to notice the very blatant fish line coming out of it. Yep, he's caught. The fish got him. Danny looks on with this amused expression as Todd is dragged around by the fish. You can tell this was shot for a kids' television show. What was the plan here? They can't show this kid being thrashed around in the water by a fish hook, so we just get this shot of the water and some echoed audio as though Todd is in a tin can.
They got me, I mocked!
We don't see him, we don't see any fish. He reasons with them and they let him go.
What? Gonna make me swim back?
And it ends on an unexceptional joke. Right, final thoughts. So this episode was disgusting. There's nothing I would call scary or interesting about it. It relies on gross out moments way too often. To me, it very much differs from your average Goosebumps episode. A lot of these stories end on a more ambiguous, sometimes even disturbing note. This one ends on a joke, and an unfunny one if you ask me.
What? Gonna make me swim back?
The murderous fish are making you swim back. How inconvenient. I should mention that this episode differs a lot from the book. I would say the latter is a lot more frightening with more intense worm moments, as intense as a worm moment can be, I guess. And the ending does not involve fishing and is definitely more morbid and ambiguous, like the classic Goosebumps story. There's a lot of gross things throughout this series. I've even referred to one of them as a lighter form of body horror. A good example is the plant dad from Don't Go in the Basement, where someone's body is slowly turning into leaves and moss, but body horror typically has a point and isn't gross just for the sake of being gross. I don't think kids in that adolescent age range necessarily want to be grossed out. I distinctly remember being at that age when Goosebumps books were really popular, and at their peak I was around 10 or 11. Our 4th grade teacher brought in A Night in Terror Tower, and the kids were really into it because it felt scary. Not because it was particularly gory or disgusting, but because it put the kid characters in danger. I felt the stakes were higher. I don't get a sense of danger from from these worms? Like, how is worm death going to occur? What's the danger? It's very low stakes, and at that age, kids can decipher different types of danger. Maybe if you watched this when you were 4, it was scary. I think 4 to 5-year-olds are more prone to be intrigued by creepy crawlers. Remember that weird creepy crawlers toy set that made rubber bugs? Ugh. At 10 or 11 years old, I wanted to feel like I was reading something almost rebellious. Books that felt like they were above my reading level, or that I could get in trouble for reading if my parents found out. Earl Stein was the Stephen King for kids, and even though this episode was a flop, overall, I adore his body of work. Personally, I would pass on this one, but if you want to give the book a shot, I think it's worth a read. If you have a suggestion for a Goosebumps video you are dying to see, please leave a comment, and until next time, stay spooky. Hey everyone, thanks for watching my video on Go Eat Worms. If you're interested in more content from me, I have so many more Goosebumps videos, but first, an appreciative shout out to my patrons, for if not for them, I wouldn't have written this video. Thanks to them, you get to see this episode riffed on in all of its disgusting glory. If you're interested in supporting me, consider joining my campaign, and if not, comments make me giggle. Want to see more from me? I have a few recommendations. On the left is the very first video I did on Goosebumps. I commented on one of the creepiest episodes, and it was bonkers. On the right, I have a video from my flagship series, That Time on Murder, She Wrote. I hope you like Angela Lansbury and Tom Bosley. Thanks again, and as always, I will see you in the next one.